James is having a plum compote waffle. Well, it's a cupcake waffle. It has a 2-bite cupcake on it. And I'm going to talk about Sympathy for the Devil and India Reborn. I've already talked about India Reborn a little bit, but I'm finishing it off today. So, Sympathy for the Devil, I gave it top of the stack because...
You like the Rolling Stones song?
Yeah. No, I thought Nicolas Cage actually did a good job in that.
Now, this is kind of unusual. Or is he doing better stuff these days?
No, it's just, he actually... I don't know, sometimes it was his character, it was a little bit over the top, the way he played him, but, I mean, the guy was supposed to be pretty crazy and whatever, so I thought he did a good job. I was surprised. I expected it to be awful, and I liked it, so it got top of the stack.
Is it based on a real story, or is it just...
No, it's just a fiction. India Reborn. This is, I'm talking about the last episode in that disc, and that's that. And this one's called Mother India, and it was put out in 2008. And it's about what I'm most interested in about India. So I expected better from it, because they could have done a far better job than they did, but it tells enough, I think, to get people thinking, or it should. India is described as the diabetic capital of the world. This was a quote from
Diabetes?
Yeah, they have a lot of diabetes.
Well, they get darker skin.
How will India feed its children? That's what they asked.
Well, they'll export them to other countries.
And they actually answered that question.
That way?
Yes, they did. And it's,
well, that's
they
shameful.
did it in a kind of, they did it in a way that you might not have caught if you watched it, unless you actually you were looking for the answer and they gave it to you, right? They did. So, and if you watch it, you will see it.
Population explosion, nothing like what's happening in the so-called third world these days. And they went and they settled or colonized a lot of the world and imperialized a lot of it because of their technical advantages. India's settler colonizing the Western world. Thank you.
Okay, so 80,000. I was going to save that answer until the end. I was going to read my notes and then people would figure it out or not, right?
Yeah.
But 80,000 people served the langar. It's a vegetarian meal, a free meal at the Golden Temple of Amritsar.
Amritsar, maybe?
Sikhism rejects the caste system, embraces communal dining.
I don't know about communal dining, but thank you, Sikhs, for rejecting the caste system.
The Punjab is India's breadbasket. 1.5% of India's territory provides 60% of the wheat and 40% of the country's rice.
Yeah, but it's getting overpopulated. What are you going to, where are you going to put the people?
Well, they talked about a lot of problems with it. They said the smaller farms in the Punjab are in trouble. Only the bigger farms are surviving. Now you must go down 80 or 90 feet for well water. I think his name was Mr. Gills, maybe? I don't know. I couldn't really make it out, right? So, but he's the farmer that is interviewed in this. He says it used to be no deeper than 5 feet 40 years ago that he'd have to go down for well water.
How far does he have to go now? 60 years?
80 or 90 feet.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah. And...
fun times, guys.
So
you're going to run into rock eventually.
2 of Mr. Gill's children have settled in Canada, 2 in Britain. So there's your answer. Right there, right? He's a wealthy farmer. And that's where his children are.
Settler, colonized, and wealthy farmer is coming here for opportunity. Guess what? Whiteys came to North America and South America for opportunity.
He thinks globally, they say. 10,000 tons of his crop will be exported to Europe. He's a wealthy farmer. In some areas, the water level has dropped 400 feet.
You're going to eventually run into rock, you
Yeah.
idiots. You rockheads.
A Duba Walla, that's Duba Walla is Duba's lunchbox Walla worker is followed as he uses his bike as a food courier. And I love the lunchbox system they have. You know, it all stacks up and it's lovely. But anyway, so they courier food around and whatever. I mean, is this really much different than pizza delivery or whatever? It's just, you know, they're couriering it from home to the husband. That's really nice, or the children. The best clients followed. Their best clients follow Jainism, because I mean their diet is so restrictive, right? They're not going to be able to go out and get food most of the time, healthy food. So they don't eat what is grown underground. They believe in a minimal destruction of life. So they don't eat potatoes, they don't eat garlic or onions, they don't eat that sort of thing. As well as, you know, not wanting to, they don't want to, yeah, they don't want to eat insects or whatever. So they really try very hard to not harm as much as they can so that they can live. A kebab seller tells of the food that gave the strength to a man with over 300 wives. Foreign food can't give you the strength that Indian food can if it's cooked properly, he says.
Is this a legendary figure?
No, apparently some guy, I don't know, he gave the name and whatever, but...
How many folks are coming over here and believe in multiple marriage?
Savitsha supermarket is owned by a man in Madras. He has over 1,000 stores and 20,000 employees in the nation. The middle class is driving India. Many middlemen are being wiped out. Many Indians are eating better than ever before. While many are growing fatter, millions of India's infants are underweight at birth. Much of what's considered to be Indian food, such as tandoori chicken, in the rest of the world is in fact Punjabi food. The term Indian food is misleading. Every area has its own dishes.
I think they should have said Sikh food, or, well, it could be Punjabi, because it's half of the Punjab is Muslim. Right?
Okay.
And Muslims wouldn't have a problem with eating meat. I think they've got too much of a problem with eating too much of it.
Chicken tikka pizza is the top-selling pizza in the country. They say, you know, they have different things, like they have Subway restaurant in India, but different tasting subs. You know, they'll have a chicken tikka sub or whatever. Mangesh Dubbawala carries 40 dubbas at once. Electricity is free, so farmers pump as much water as they want. Basmati takes a lot of water to grow. If they continue like
electricity isn't even free here, is it? We gotta pay for it.
Yeah, but they're the farmers, they pay for their electricity.
Oh, just the farmers.
I don't know if it's just the farmers. They said it's electricity is free, so the farmers, so maybe that's for everybody. In which case, I mean, are they all running air conditioners or whatever? I don't know.
Lord only knows.
But I mean, there wasn't enough information there. They just said electricity is free, so and I was assuming, oh, well, that's just for the farmers.
Okay.
You know, but maybe that's not. Maybe that's for, I don't know.
See, they had a socialist government, borderline democratic. I hesitate to call it social democratic. So maybe that was one of their initiatives. Of course, it really didn't take them anywhere economically. You can imagine the waste if it's free for everyone.
Yeah.
Free for all.
Well, it was showing the water just being pumped, you know, the well water. But anyway, if they continue like this, their land will become a desert. Women and girls do most of the house and farm work in rural India, yet they eat last. It's just, that's how
wow,
the culture is.
How
right?
many of these folks are coming to the West?
And so then...
What do feminists think of that?
Then they were saying, well, that explains the low infant birth rate, right? If the women aren't getting the nutrition, they're cooking, they're
you mean more
getting
like
the vegetables, but the husbands and the fathers and whatever and the sons, they're getting it to eat the stuff first. So they get the best pickings, and then the women, you know, whether they're pregnant or not, you know, they get the last.
So it would be high mortality, infant mortality. right? They still have a high infant birth
Well,
rate.
he was talking, you know, the makers of the show, they're kind of letting you draw your own conclusions there. I mean, they talk about they introduce the farmer, the wealthy farmer, and all his sons are in Britain and Canada, right? And then they're talking about the low infant birth weight. And they're
Weight.
talking,
Oh,
yes,
I thought
and
you
they're
said
talking
rate. Sorry.
weight.
Yeah.
And they talk about the. Sorry, I have a headache. It's really hard for me to talk right now. They talk about, what was it, the diabetes. And so then you're thinking, okay, well, could this also have something to do with that, the poor nutrition that the infants are getting
Well, when they're
in utero, right?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
So, but they don't say that outright, right? They
Well-
just let you draw your conclusions. They provide the information, and then you're like, well, maybe it's this, you know, maybe there's a connection here, whatever. And SEZ is a market area which will be treated as foreign territory. No Indian laws will be applicable there. No democracy. A development commissioner will look after the area. They will have their own kingdom. The capitalist in charge, whether foreign or native, will be sovereign. Justin Kolse Patel is a retired High Court judge, and activist Vilas Sulawi, who led a group of Marxist guerrillas, are working together against the 700 economic zones the government plans to build, mostly on farmland. And they were saying these guys used to be against each other, but since this SEZ market thing came up, these guys are
Marxists. What's the group?
a retired High Court judge. So
And
they
then
used
he's
to be
working with-
enemies, but now they're working together
Well,
because
that's just one.
this other thing is, yeah.
You can't work with Marxists. You get that straight? You can't work with Marxists. So they're
Okay.
talking about these being kingdoms. Marxists set up the worst kingdom going,
Okay.
with the exception of one religion.
So anyway, I'm just providing the information.
I know.
700 economic
I'm
zones
not mad at you.
on the farmland. So in Uran alone, 45 villages are marked for destruction to make way for call centers, software companies, and houses. So really the villages are being turned into city. What are you going to do? You have more people. What are you going to do? Where are you going to put them? You know? Basically in India, they're stacking them up on top of each other. There's nowhere, what are they going to do with them? I guess now they can dig down, now that they're having to dig 400
Feet
what was
deep
it,
for
feet
water.
for water. They can dig great big sky rises that are like underground sky rises to, I don't know. What are you going to do? So, very few of the farmers have accepted the offered compensation. They don't want to go. The Dubba only have 30 seconds, the Dubba Walla, the workers delivering the lunch boxes, they only have 30 seconds to catch their train. So they're all loaded up. They have 40 or so lunch boxes that they're packing. And they get on the train to go deliver them. And
Those are the ones with the bikes?
yeah, they take the
Okay.
bikes and then they get on the train and they go and then so they're they really work and they had pushed their way in. You know, they're loaded up, but they got to get there. They got to get in because they only have 30 seconds to get on that train, or they miss their train and then they're late, and then well, nobody will be happy, right? If their lunch is late. So the youth love junk food, burgers and Pepsi Coke. A kid says. Most youth spend most of their time sitting. They aren't physically active and they eat junk. So Indians are getting prone to diabetes, or Indians are genetically prone to diabetes. There are fewer of them cooking for themselves now, or for their families. Like they were showing a chef. He was a TV chef, and he's selling lots of books. And he says, you know, people they buy my books because they would like to cook for their family, but they don't have the time to do so.
Or
And he says it's good for me, you know, because I sell the book, you know. But they recognize the fact, like he recognizes the fact, the fact that his books are selling shows that people aren't cooking, you know. They just they would like to, but they're not, right?
No.
So
I suspect, for at least in middle class over there, it's very much like it is for most people over here. They're saying, I don't have time. I don't have time to read. I don't have time to get it.
yeah.
And then you get guys, Sunday afternoon, Sunday evening. 3 football games in a row.
Yeah, that's
okay. That's like 9 hours. 9 hours.
Okay.
The stuff a person could learn in those 9 hours, just 9 hours a week, would be amazing. But no, got to watch those football games.
So 30% of school children are already obese in India. The midday meal has been provided at schools, but this has increased in attendance. So it's a good thing. I think
they're already overweight, and we're supposed to believe that they're over here because they're starving. They're coming over here because they're starving. Did you hear that? 30% overweight. They're eating
obese.
Too much. Obese.
Obese,
okay.
Not just overweight. School children, they said obese.
They're exporting food to Europe. We got that, you stupid
but
1.5 brain out there that you
no, I mean there's a lot of. They did say there's a lot of people that are malnourished too, like
of course, and it's their responsibility to take the grain coming from the Punjab to Europe.
But they won't because it's that's how their system.
They got a crummy system.
Yes, the women eat last, the whatever. So anyway, I was going to talk more about they talked about the Green Revolution and stuff like that. And if you haven't looked into the Green Revolution, do. But really, I mean, everybody talks about, the Green Revolution was so bad for India, and it's caused all these problems, And really, you can extrapolate, you can look at these problems and go, yeah, it caused these problems, but did it really?
The main problem it caused was overpopulation.
Yeah, because as soon as they were able to feed more people, they just had more people. So it didn't. I mean, really, they were trying to. The people who introduced the Green Revolution into India, they were saying, okay, well, we have to feed these people that are hungry, but what do? You feed the people who are hungry, and they just produce more people.
Absolutely.
They're not actually. You're solving the problem just for the short term and creating a way bigger problem in the future, and that's really what happened with the Green Revolution.
The Hindus are a problem, but there's a religious minority in India that's producing way more. And they're not Hindus, and they're not Sikhs. Shame on you all, but especially shame on that one religious group. Check it out. Which one it is. I'm not telling you.
Yeah, and then you look at, you solved in the short term, you solved the problem of people not having enough food in India. And even did they really there? It ended up, some people had way more food and other people still had little, right? Because you have that system that you can't fix that system. It's already there, and
you were supposed to be a social democracy, and you still got the caste system. Shame on you. Shame on you.
So, and anyway, that's a big topic. We could talk about this all day, but I don't want to. You can look into it for yourself.
It's depressing. I mean, people can only stand getting stacked together, cheek by jowl, until they turn to violence. They've done experiments with animals.
Yeah.
And if they get too crowded, then they start, what do? Chewing on each other. Whatever.
The thing is I mean, we've heard about so many people from India now living here and in Britain and whatever, and like the one man talking about his sons. He had, I don't know how many children he had besides those sons. He talked about 2 sons in Britain and 2 in Canada. Well, how many other children did he have? That's still too many. That's still double even if he just had 4 sons, which I'm thinking he probably didn't. Those were the ones he mentioned, right? He might have 6 sons in India still, or whatever, but
the 4 is too many.
So really,
you only
how
should be
are
allowed
they
to have
feeding
2
India's
sons
children?
If you have no daughters.
India's not feeding India's children. That's the answer to the question. Is India can't feed all of India's children, and in the long term, and not very long term, the world can't feed all of India's children. The system has to change. You can't have Even this man he's a wealthy farmer, he's exported 4 sons to the world, to the rest of the world. That is twice as many children as he should have been allowed to have. Just to keep the world's population the same.
Of kids.
He has doubled the world's population. If he just had 4 children, he doubled it.
Absolutely.
If everyone had 4 children, every couple had 4 children, they doubled the world's population. You can't keep doing this.
So less than 100 years, India's gone from being colonized by the English to colonizing the English.
And you can go ahead and say, oh, well, you know, these people, some of them live on 20 cents a day or whatever, and that's their income. Okay, well, if you give them the opportunity to make $2,000 a day, they would just have more children, and all of their children would want to. They would be buying SUVs, and they would be whatever. Yeah. So, you got to solve that problem of, oh, it's a status symbol to have many sons, or whatever.
Absolutely shameful. And there's a vast majority of kids being born that are sons, as opposed to daughters in India. You want that here in Democratic West? Hey, you feminists, come on.
Yeah, you get to eat last and do the work of producing the food and cooking the food and serving the food. You eat last.